Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still holding above this important level of support as more liquidity is building to the upside above the price of Bitcoin. But that's not the big news today. The big news today is that the US president just officially established a strategic Bitcoin reserve and US digital asset stockpile. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which is still just holding on to this important area of support, while the price of XRP is still bouncing around between support and resistance, while Cardano is still trying to play out this bullish divergence but is struggling around major resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, we need to talk about the Bitcoin and crypto news today, because it was just announced a matter of hours ago that President Trump just signed an executive order to officially establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And the White House is now calling Bitcoin digital gold, which is obviously bullish for Bitcoin's long-term future. And just before talking about some other important points within this executive order right here, first I'll just play you a quick clip of Trump actually signing the Bitcoin executive order.
Today we're signing, and this is very historic, an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. This is a promise that you made throughout the campaign, and today we're keeping that promise. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin that the federal government already owns, so it won't cost taxpayers a dime. This is like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. And premature sales of Bitcoin over the past years cost American taxpayers over $17 billion in lost value because we didn't have a long-term strategy.
Right.
Now we do. So.
And this is something you believe in?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole community believes in it.
Very good. And they made the promise, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a good one.
And so as you just saw there, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve is now officially confirmed with an executive order. But with that being said, there are some important points to look at within this executive order. And so, of course, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin owned by the Department of Treasury that was forfeited as a part of criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. And so that basically means previous Bitcoin that the government already currently holds from previous criminal activity, basically seizing it from criminals, they will basically just be turning that existing Bitcoin holdings into this strategic Bitcoin reserve. And then with this strategic Bitcoin reserve, they will not be selling any of that Bitcoin and will potentially look at accumulating more Bitcoin, but not actually buying Bitcoin. Because as the executive order says right here, they will be looking at developing budget neutral strategies for acquiring additional Bitcoin that is basically no cost to the American taxpayer. And you might be wondering, well, how could the government accumulate more Bitcoin without actually buying more Bitcoin? And well, Michael Saylor says he has a few ideas for acquiring additional Bitcoin. And just some speculation of my own. As always, this is not confirmed. This is just some speculation, but potentially the US government could sell a bit of their gold reserves to buy Bitcoin. That would be budget neutral in aligned with this executive order. Or potentially they could reallocate profits from the Federal Reserve into Bitcoin, therefore not costing taxpayers money. Or they could potentially accept Bitcoin as payment, basically in the form of fees or taxes. If you could pay the government in Bitcoin, that could be a form of accumulating more Bitcoin for the government without costing taxpayers. And then of course, the obvious point would be any future Bitcoin seized from criminal activity, the government will likely just retain within this strategic reserve. And so that is the current situation on the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve that's just been signed by President Trump. And with this executive order, it also establishes a US digital asset stockpile, which is basically the altcoin reserve essentially. And so as we can see here, the US digital asset stockpile will be consisting of digital assets other than Bitcoin owned by the Department of Treasury that was forfeited in criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. And so essentially it's similar to the Bitcoin reserve, but mainly just for altcoins once again. But with the US digital asset stockpile, the altcoin reserve, the US government is not potentially as bullish on the altcoins as they are for Bitcoin here, because we can see here under the US digital asset stockpile, the altcoins once again, the government will not acquire additional assets for the US digital asset stockpile. So basically they will not even be looking at acquiring more of those altcoins. And we can also see here that the Secretary of the Treasury may determine strategies for responsible stewardship, including potential sales from the US digital asset stockpile. So not only will the US government not be accumulating any more altcoins, but potentially they'll be looking to dump some of their altcoin holdings while looking to accumulate more Bitcoin. And so just keep that in mind. That is the current situation based on this executive order right here. Of course, it is bullish for Bitcoin's long-term future. Of course, not as bullish as what some people were thinking. A lot of people were thinking that they'll just buy a bunch of Bitcoin on the market. That is not what is happening. And we also have to keep in mind that later today, in a matter of hours from now, we have President Trump to sign more executive orders and speak at the White House Crypto Summit, the first ever crypto summit hosted by the White House later today at 3 p.m. EST. And in case you're wondering who might be attending this White House Crypto Summit, here's a list in case you want to just pause right here and look at some of these names that might be attending and so far have been confirmed at attending this White House Crypto Summit. But some of the major names in here are, of course, Michael Saylor, very bullish for Bitcoin, the CEO of Coinbase as well, also the co-founder of Chainlink, also the CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, that's bullish for XRP, the CEO of Crypto.com, the founders of the Gemini exchange, the Winklevoss twins, etc. And so obviously this could potentially be very bullish for Bitcoin and crypto, depending on what's really said in this White House Crypto Summit just later today. And so just keep all of this in mind when it comes to the price action for crypto as of right now, especially today. There should be a bit of volatility, especially around this White House Crypto Summit. So if Bitcoin dumps or pumps, for example, honestly, it will likely depend on what is said within this crypto summit. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the 4-day time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish trend, but it is getting very close to possibly flipping red again. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, of course, we still have a massive bearish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. And the last couple of times this happened, we either saw a pullback or actually more of a bearish trend form either over the next few weeks or months. And this has already been playing out for approximately 1 month now, exactly as expected. And so it could potentially continue to play out a little longer, maybe over the next few weeks, and especially based on this bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, which is still currently active. It's still playing out with higher highs confirmed in the price and lower highs confirmed in the weekly Bitcoin RSI. And so this is telling us we should not really be expecting a lot of bullish momentum. Yes, we can see some short-term bullish moves, but not necessarily a lot of momentum towards the upside, at least in the somewhat shorter term here. And obviously it's already been playing out pretty much perfectly over the last 1 to 2 months. And now if you want to actually trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I'm starting to take more of my trades over on 2bit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, a brand new Mercedes-Benz or $50,000 in trading rewards, simply just by trading crypto using the link below this video to 2bit. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get some decent bonuses just by using that link, like for example, a $30 sign up bonus and also a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus onto your new account, but only if you use that link. And on top of all of that, if you use the link below this video to 2bit, you are automatically upgraded to VIP level 1 trading fees, which basically means you get a massive discount on trading fees, lowered trading fees over on 2bit, but only if you use that link. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And also, in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there is also Bitfinex as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I will also make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And that link, by the way, will take you to this page where you can claim some massive bonuses over here as well. And also, in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is indeed a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, and at least for now, we're still holding above this important Fibonacci level of support, sitting at approximately 82,500, and we are running into a bit of resistance at approximately 92,000. And now, if we were to actually see a confirmed break well below 82,000 approximately, in that case, we have major support down here, sitting in between around 70,000 to 74,000, based on previous resistance becoming new support. And we also have a lot of traded volume down there, basically acting as significant support here in the volume profile indicator. And as for resistance, based on the volume profile indicator, we have a decent amount of traded volume in between around 95,000 to 98,000. So I would expect a resistance around there, decent amount of resistance around there. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, we also have this previous area of support becoming new resistance in between around 94,000 to 95,000. So really in the around the mid 90k area, especially the low to mid 90k area, that's the major resistance to pay attention to, at least for now, based on previous significant support becoming new resistance. But we also have some major liquidity building towards the upside that we need to pay attention to, at least in the shorter term here. We have liquidity building at approximately 95,500 and also at close to 97,000. So basically just above this point of resistance right here, we have a lot of liquidity. In other words, a bunch of short positions would get wiped out, they'll get liquidated if the price breaks out above this resistance right here. And in case you're new to all of this, usually, not always, but usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity, especially if it's close to the price of Bitcoin. So those are just some areas to pay attention to. But of course, even though we have liquidity at around 96, 97k, we cannot ignore resistance. Obviously, the price will still likely struggle around resistance. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, of course, the situation on the larger time frames here has not really changed over the last one day. We're still currently looking bearish in terms of the larger price structure. But as of right now, on the 3-day time frame, the price of ETH is still running into this important horizontal area of support, the all-important golden pocket area of support, sitting in between around 2150 to 2.2k. So at least for now, that is the support to pay attention to. But if we start breaking below around 2150 and especially below 2.1k with confirmation, so candle closes below those levels, in that case would likely see a drop at least down towards around 1880, just below 1.9k. And if we break that level of support, in that case I'll be targeting around 1,500 if we first break below these levels of support. And as for resistance, we have a lot of resistance at approximately 2,500 and also at around 2.8k. If we actually bounce up towards those levels, expect a lot of resistance around there. And usually the price of ETH will follow somewhat similar price action to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin's very bearish or very bullish, expect something similar for Ethereum and a lot of the major altcoins. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the weekly time frame, just like Ethereum on the weekly time frame, Solana is not looking too good. We are breaking below a very important line of support, which is sitting at approximately 167, just below 170. So especially if we confirm this weekly candle close below that level of support, that would officially confirm the break towards the downside from this massive rising wedge pattern, a bearish price pattern with a price target at approximately $90. But as I always say, even if we have a price target, we cannot ignore other points of support and resistance. So for example, we have a lot of support in between around 120 to 130. And at least so far, that's pretty much exactly where we've recently bounced from very close to 120 to 130. And so obviously that is proving to be major support to pay attention to. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, at least for now, we've just seen another retest of this short-term area of support sitting in between 133 to 139. And below that area, we also have this area of support in between 123 to 125. And as for resistance, we have a decent amount sitting in between 156 to 161 and major resistance in between around 178 to 183. And as I've already said over the last couple of days, the price of Solana is honestly looking relatively neutral, at least in the short term. Once again, the larger price structure, while the price is below this line of support, is not looking good. It's looking more bearish than it is bullish, but just in the short term for the next couple of days, as I've been saying over the last couple of days, we are simply lacking momentum to either direction, basically just bouncing around sideways between support and resistance. But obviously, depending on what is said in that crypto summit, the White House crypto summit later today, that could potentially impact the markets in the short term. So just keep that in mind. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at XRP on the 3-day time frame, at least for now, we still have a major bearish divergence, which is active on this XRP chart on this time frame. So this is telling us we should not necessarily expect a lot of bullish momentum. So we're most likely going to see a bit more of a pullback or maybe just some choppy sideways price action. Now, of course, we can see the occasional bullish move here and there, but not necessarily a significant amount of bullish momentum. But remember, that could possibly change with the White House Crypto Summit. That is really a potential curveball that could be thrown at us later today. And if we're taking a look at this 8-hour time frame, the technical levels of support and resistance to watch out for are, first of all, sitting in between around 265 to 280 as major resistance. But if we see a breakout above $2.80, in that case, expect to move up towards $3, which is the next resistance. And then above that, I would expect more resistance at around $3.20. And as for support, I would expect a lot of support in between $2.25 to $2.30, and below that area, more support in between $1.95 to $2.05. And the current situation is relatively neutral just in the short term, at least for now, for the price of XRP, as the price is simply just bouncing around between support and resistance in a bit of a sideways price range, just chopping around sideways. And if we're taking a look at the price of Cardano real quick, taking a look at the daily time frame, at least for now, this bullish divergence is technically still active. We've not fully confirmed any invalidation signal for this bullish divergence. Of course, we did hit overbought, telling us we're due to see a bit of a break from all of that bullish price action here at the same time as running into significant resistance. So it was no surprise that we saw a bit of a pullback in the short term from that area, because that is major resistance for the price of Cardano, sitting in between $1.13 to $1.23. But we've also just retested an important level of support based on previous support, which was also resistance right here, and that's sitting at approximately 85 cents, give or take. So at least for now, expect a decent amount of support at approximately 85 cents. But if we start breaking below 85, and especially below around 80 cents, in that case, we could potentially retrace back just below around 70 cents, around 68 cents approximately, as the next support. But while we have this bullish divergence, and while the price is still struggling around key resistance, ultimately we're kind of lacking momentum to either direction, at least in the short term, basically just bouncing around sideways. At least for now, that is the current situation in the short term for the price of Cardano. But remember, that White House Crypto Summit later today could potentially change things in the shorter term, depending on what is said in that White House Crypto Summit. But as always, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those extra bonuses that you can only claim using those links. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.